Admiral Zekthar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the viewing screen with cold eyes. 3 small ships floated in space ahead of them. They looked weak and simple compared to his giant war vessels. The ships had strange markings on their sides and moved in patterns he did not understand. Unknown vessels, Zekthar spoke into his communication device. His voice was deep and threatening. You have entered space controlled by the Hegemony Empire. Prepare to be boarded and processed. For many years, Zekthar had given this same message to hundreds of different alien species. Usually the aliens would panic. Some would cry and beg for mercy. Others would try to fight and fail quickly. A few would stay silent and hope the hegemony would leave them alone. But none of that happened this time. Instead, a strange sound came from the human ships. It sounded like laughing and excited talking. Then a woman's voice responded, and she sounded happy. Hello there. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Defiance. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. We are humans from a planet called Earth. This is amazing. We have been hoping to meet other intelligent life for so long. Zekthar looked at his officers. They all had confused expressions on their faces. Lieutenant Vextar checked his translation system twice to make sure it was working correctly. Did she say thank you? Asked Commander Heckamole. On the viewing screen, they could see inside the human ship. The bridge was full of people wearing blue uniforms. Every single human was smiling. Some were pointing at the hegemony ships and talking excitedly to each other. One human was even taking pictures with a small device. Captain Chen appeared on the main screen. She was a woman with dark hair tied back neatly. Her eyes were bright and she could not stop smiling. Behind her, other humans were moving around the bridge, but they all kept looking at the screen and grinning. We would love to exchange information about our cultures, Captain Chen continued. Do you have any data packages you could share? We brought some gifts from Earth, music, art, stories, and information about our history. Would you like to see them? Admiral Zekthar had conquered 47 different worlds. He had destroyed entire fleets. Whole civilizations feared his name, but he had never encountered anything like this before. The humans acted like meeting his war fleet was the best thing that had ever happened to them. You do not understand. Your situation, Zekthar said, trying to sound more threatening. We are the hegemony. We control this part of the galaxy. You will surrender your ships and submit to our authority. The humans on the bridge started talking to each other in excited whispers. Captain Chen nodded politely. That sounds like an interesting government system, she said. We would love to learn more about how your empire works. But humans prefer to stay independent. We have our own government back on Earth. Maybe we could set up some kind of diplomatic relationship instead. One of the humans behind Captain Chen, a man with brown hair, leaned forward and whispered something in her ear. She nodded, and her smile got even bigger. Actually, Captain Chen said, my science officer has a great idea. Since we just met, maybe we could have some friendly competitions to learn about each other. Humans love games and contests. Do your people enjoy competitive activities? Lieutenant Vextar turned to Admiral Zekthar. Sir, I think their translation system might be broken. They seem to think we are here for social activities. But Zekthar was beginning to understand that the translation was working perfectly. These humans really were this strange. On the human ship, a young man in uniform approached Captain Chen. He was trying not to laugh, but his eyes were bright with excitement. Captain, he said, permission to speak freely? Go ahead, Torres, Captain Chen replied. This is so cool, Torres said, unable to hide his grin. I mean, this is exactly like all those science fiction movies we grew up watching. The mysterious alien empire, the first contact scenario, everything. My little brother is going to be so jealous when I tell him about this. Captain Chen chuckled. I know, right? I keep expecting someone to yell cut and tell us the cameras stopped rolling. Admiral Zekthar watched this exchange with growing confusion. Were these humans treating a military confrontation like entertainment? You seem to misunderstand the seriousness of this situation, Zekthar said. This is not a game. We are a military force. You are being given the opportunity to surrender peacefully. Oh, we understand completely, Captain Chen said cheerfully. You have big ships and lots of weapons. Very impressive. But humans don't really do the whole surrendering thing. It's not in our nature. We prefer to talk things out or have some kind of fair competition to settle disagreements. She paused and looked at something off-screen. Actually, our military historians are getting really excited. They want to know if you would be interested in some war games. Nothing with real weapons, of course. Just tactical exercises. We could learn a lot from each other. Commander Heckmole leaned over to Admiral Zekthar. Sir, what are war games? I believe they are referring to military training exercises, Zekthar replied quietly, but they appear to want to conduct them with us. During a conquest, I am beginning to think these humans do not realize they are being conquered. On the screen, more humans had gathered behind Captain Chen. They were all looking at the hegemony ships with expressions of wonder and excitement. One woman was taking notes on a tablet. A man in engineering uniform was pointing at different parts of the hegemony vessels and explaining something to his colleagues. Your ships are beautiful, Captain Chen said. The engineering must be incredible. How do you generate that much power? And those weapon arrays, are they plasma-based or some kind of particle beam system? Those weapons are pointed at your ship, Admiral Zekthar said slowly. I know. Isn't it exciting? Captain Chen's eyes lit up. We have been imagining this moment for decades. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. This is the greatest day in human history. A young human woman approached Captain Chen and whispered something urgent in her ear. Captain Chen nodded and turned back to the screen. Admiral Zekthar, our communications officer, has been monitoring your fleet's signals. Your technology is fascinating. We would love to set up a cultural exchange program. We could share scientific knowledge, artistic traditions, maybe even sports and games. Do your people play sports? Admiral Zekthar felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. Complete bewilderment. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever responded to his war fleet by asking about sports. We do not play, he said firmly. We conquer. That sounds like a very serious lifestyle, Captain Chen said sympathetically. All work and no play makes for a stressful existence. Maybe we could show you some fun human activities? We brought playing cards, board games, sports equipment, even a guitar. The humans on the bridge started discussing something among themselves. They were all talking at once, their voices full of excitement and energy. Captain, said the man called Torres, should we show them the drone footage of the soccer match? We played on the moon last month? Great idea, Captain Chen turned back to Admiral Zekthar. Would you like to see humans playing sports in low gravity? It's really quite entertaining. Admiral Zekthar closed the communication channel and turned to his officers. They all stared back at him with expressions of total confusion. Sir, said Lieutenant Vextar, what do we do with aliens who want to play games with us? Admiral Zekthar did not have an answer. Admiral Zekthar decided to try a different approach. He opened the communication channel again and made his voice as cold and threatening as possible. Humans of Earth, he began, you will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your ships and crew will be processed according to hegemony protocols. Resistance will result in the destruction of your vessels. Captain Chen listened carefully, nodding as if she was taking notes. When he finished speaking, she smiled even wider. That's a very generous offer, Admiral, but we'll have to pass. Humans are pretty attached to their freedom. But hey, since we're both military organizations, why don't we have a friendly competition instead? We could test our skills against each other without anyone getting hurt. Behind her, the human crew started cheering and clapping their hands. One man pumped his fist in the air like his favorite sports team had just scored a goal. Yes, shouted. Torres, I call dibs on the fighter pilot competition. No fair, said another human. I've been training for first contact scenarios since I was 12. Captain Chen held up her hand for quiet. Sorry about that, Admiral. My crew gets excited about new challenges. We have some really competitive people on board. Admiral Zekthar looked at Commander Heckmole. Are they treating this like a sporting event? I believe so, sir, Heckmole replied. Their behavior suggests they find this situation enjoyable. On the human ship, a woman in science officer uniform approached Captain Chen. She was trying to look professional, but she kept grinning. Captain, the aliens have some fascinating technology. Their energy signatures are off the charts, and look at the design of those ships. The engineering principles alone could advance human science by decades. I know, right? Captain Chen replied. This is like Christmas morning, and my birthday all rolled into one. Admiral Zekthar decided to demonstrate the seriousness of the situation. He ordered his weapons officer to charge the main batteries and move the fleet into attack formation. The massive hegemony ships moved slowly into position, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Instead of showing fear, the humans became even more excited. Oh, wow, look at that formation, said Torres. That's a classic pincer movement with covering fire support. Textbook military tactics. Captain Chen was practically bouncing in her chair. This is incredible. We're seeing real alien military strategies in action. The War College back on Earth is going to flip when they see these recordings. Captain, said the science officer, are you getting readings on those energy weapons? The power output is amazing. I know. Captain Chen turned back to Admiral Zekthar. Your tactical formations are beautiful, very elegant. Whoever designed your military doctrine is a real artist. Do you mind if we record this for educational purposes? Admiral Zekthar stared at the screen. In 300 years of military service, no enemy had ever asked permission to record their own destruction. You realize we are preparing to attack you, he said slowly. Of course, Captain Chen replied cheerfully. And we're prepared to defend ourselves. This is going to be the most educational first contact scenario in human history. Our military academies will be studying this for generations. A new human appeared on screen. An older man with gray hair and the insignia of a high-ranking officer. Admiral E. Zekthar, the man said. I'm General Morrison, military advisor to this mission. I have to say your fleet deployment is impressive, very professional. I've been studying military tactics for 40 years, and I've never seen formations quite like yours. You study warfare? Zekthar asked. Oh, yes, General Morrison replied with enthusiasm. Humans love military history and strategy. We have thousands of books about famous battles, great generals, clever tactics. Wargaming is one of our most popular hobbies. Hobbies? You know, things we do for fun in our spare time. Humans play war games the same way other people play cards or sports. We have computer simulations, board games, role-playing scenarios. Some people spend their whole weekends refighting historical battles with miniature armies. Admiral Zekthar felt a strange sensation in his head. He had heard about this feeling from other species. They called it a headache. You play at war. For entertainment? He asked. Absolutely, said Captain Chen. And now we get to see how real professionals do it. This is like meeting our heroes. The human called Torres was consulting a tablet device. Captain, I've been analyzing their ship movements. They're using a modified Raken formation with enhanced fire support positioning. It's brilliant. Where did you learn about Raken formations? Admiral Zekthar demanded. Oh, that's from one of our strategy games, Torres replied casually. Battlefleet Commander 3000. Great game. The Raken were this fictional alien empire with really smart military tactics. Looks like the game designers got pretty close to the real thing. Lieutenant Vextar leaned over to Admiral Zekthar. Sir, they have games that simulate military conflicts with fictional alien empires? Apparently so, Zekthar replied weakly. Captain Chen was scrolling through something on her screen. Admiral, We've been going through our cultural database, and we have hundreds of stories about first contact with galactic empires. Most of them involve some kind of conflict or competition. It's one of humanity's favorite story themes. You write stories about meeting us? Zekthar asked. Not specifically you, General Morrison explained, but we've been imagining scenarios like this for over a century. Books, movies, games, military simulations. The basic setup is always the same. Humans meet advanced aliens, there's some kind of conflict, and then either we fight or we become friends. Sometimes both, added Torres. Fight first, friends later. Very popular plot structure. Captain Chen nodded enthusiastically. The point is, we've been preparing for this our whole lives. Every human child grows up reading stories about space battles and alien encounters. This isn't just first contact for us, it's like all our dreams coming true at once. Admiral Zekthar watched as more humans gathered on the bridge. They were all looking at his ships with expressions of wonder and excitement. Some were taking pictures, others were making sketches. One young woman was actually drawing pictures of the hegemony vessels in a notebook. Are your people always this enthusiastic about dangerous situations? He asked. Pretty much, Captain Chen replied. Humans get excited about challenges. The bigger the challenge, the more excited we get. And meeting an advanced alien empire, that's about as big as it gets. But we could destroy you, Admiral Zekthar pointed out. You could try, said General Morrison with a grin. But humans are pretty good at not dying. We've had a lot of practice. Practice? Wars, disasters, dangerous exploration, extreme sports, Captain Chen listed. Humans are always doing risky things and finding ways to survive them. It's kind of our specialty. Torres looked up from his tablet. Captain, should we show them our defensive capabilities? I think they might be interested in our point defense systems. Great idea. Captain Chen turned back to Admiral Zekthar. Would you like to see some human military technology? We've been working on space combat systems for decades, just in case we ever met someone like you. Just in case? Well, we figured it was better to be prepared, Captain Chen said. Most of our science fiction stories suggested that first contact might involve some kind of conflict, so we designed our space fleet accordingly. Admiral Zekthar realized something disturbing. These humans had not just imagined meeting his empire, they had specifically prepared for it. You built your military to fight galactic empires? He asked. Among other things, General Morrison replied. We also prepared for space pirates, robot invasions, interdimensional threats, and alien parasites. Humans like to cover all the possibilities. This is insane, Commander Heckmol whispered, but Admiral Zekthar was beginning to think it might be something else entirely. Admiral Zekthar decided that the humans needed to understand the true power of the hegemony. He would show them what happened to species that refused to surrender. Weapons officer, he commanded, target the asteroid at coordinate 77 Mark IV. Prepare planet cracker beam. Yes, sir, replied the weapons officer. Admiral Zekthar opened the communication channel to the human ships. You seem to think this is some kind of game. Allow me to demonstrate the reality of your situation. On the viewing screen, Captain Chen and her crew watched with interest as the massive hegemony dreadnought powered up its main weapon. The front of the ship began to glow with blue energy. Oh, wow, said Torres. Look at that energy buildup. The power readings are incredible. Everyone quiet, Captain Chen said. I think they're about to show us something important. The planet cracker beam fired. A brilliant lance of energy reached across space and struck a large asteroid. For a moment, the asteroid glowed like a small sun. Then it exploded into thousands of pieces, each piece smaller than a pebble. When the light faded, there was nothing left but space dust and glowing particles. Admiral Zekthar expected to see fear on the human faces. Instead, the entire bridge erupted in applause and cheering. That was amazing, Captain Chen shouted over the noise. Did you see the energy conversion rate? The beam coherence was perfect. Torres was jumping up and down. The targeting system must be incredibly precise. And the power source. How do you generate that much energy? The science officer was frantically taking readings with her instruments. Captain, the energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. This technology is centuries ahead of ours. I know, Captain Chen replied, clapping her hands together. Isn't it wonderful? Admiral Zekthar stared at the screen in disbelief. I just destroyed an asteroid. Yes, said General Morrison, appearing back on screen. That was beautiful. The precision, the power control, the clean destruction pattern. Your weapons engineers are masters of their craft. That weapon could destroy your ships just as easily, Zekthar pointed out. Probably, Captain Chen agreed cheerfully. But it was still amazing to watch. Do you have any technical specifications you could share? Our engineers would love to study the principles behind that energy beam. Behind her, a man in engineering uniform was waving his hands excitedly. Captain, Captain! Did you see how the beam maintained coherence over that distance? The field stabilization technology alone is revolutionary. Captain Chen turned to him. I know, Hansen. Make sure you're recording everything. The folks back at the Mars shipyards are going to want to see this. Already on it, Hansen replied, holding up a recording device. This is going to change everything we know about directed energy weapons. Admiral Zekthar looked at his officers. Commander Heckmol was shaking his head slowly. Sir, Heckmol said quietly, I think they enjoyed watching us destroy that asteroid. They applauded, Lieutenant Vexitar added. I have never seen anyone applaud a weapons demonstration before. On the human ship, Captain Chen was talking to someone off-screen. She turned back to Admiral Zekthar with an even bigger smile. Admiral, my engineers have a question. Would you be interested in seeing our prototype asteroid destruction system? It's not as advanced as yours, but we're pretty proud of it. You have asteroid destruction weapons? Zekthar asked. Well, we call them kinetic bombardment systems, Captain Chen explained. They're really just modified mining equipment, but they work pretty well for breaking up rocks. General Morrison nodded. Humans have been mining asteroids for decades. When you spend that much time blowing up rocks in space, you get pretty good at it. Mining? Admiral Zekthar was confused. Oh yes, said Hansen, the engineer. Asteroid mining is big business for humans. Iron, nickel, platinum, rare earth elements. Much easier to dig them out of asteroids than to haul them up from planetary gravity wells. Captain Chen pointed to something off-screen. Hansen, show our new friends the orbital thunder system. With pleasure, Captain. Hansen's eyes lit up, like a child on Christmas morning. On the human ship's external cameras, Admiral Zekthar could see mechanical systems moving into position. Large cylindrical objects emerged from the ship's cargo bay. These are kinetic impactors, Hansen explained happily. Basically, very dense metal rods accelerated to very high speeds. Simple physics. Mass times velocity equals impact force. 1. Of the human ships fired 3 metal rods at a different asteroid. The rods moved so fast, they were almost invisible. When they hit the asteroid, the impact was enormous. The entire rock shattered into fragments that scattered in all directions. The human crew cheered again. Not bad for repurposed mining gear, Torres commented. Admiral Zekthar watched the debris field spreading through space. The human weapon had been almost as effective as his planet cracker beam, but much simpler. You built weapons from mining? Equipment? He asked. Not weapons exactly, Hansen corrected. Those are industrial tools. We use them for breaking up asteroids so we can process the materials. But I guess they work pretty well for ship-to-ship combat, too. You guess? Captain Chen shrugged. We've never actually fought anyone in space before, but we've run thousands of computer simulations. Our military planners figured that if we ever met hostile aliens, kinetic weapons would be effective against most ship designs. You planned for this? Admiral Zekthar felt that headache sensation getting worse. Of course, said General Morrison. Every major military in human history has planned for fighting wars they hoped would never happen. That's what military planning is for. Torres was consulting his tablet again. Captain, our tactical computers have finished analyzing the hegemony. Weapons systems. The energy output is consistent with fusion-powered particle beam arrays. Very sophisticated, but not beyond human engineering capabilities. Excellent, Captain Chen replied. Make a note to share that analysis with the defense contractors back home. They'll want to start working on improvements to our shield systems. Admiral, Zekthar was beginning to understand something disturbing about these humans. They were not just prepared for galactic warfare. They were excited about it. Your entire civilization prepares for war? He asked. Not exactly, Captain Chen explained. We prepare for challenges. War is just one possible challenge. We also prepare for natural disasters, asteroid impacts, plague outbreaks, robot uprisings, and alien invasions. Alien invasions? Sure. We've been writing stories about alien invasions for over a century. Movies, books, games, military exercises. The basic scenarios are always the same. Advanced aliens show up and try to conquer us. Hansen nodded enthusiastically. And then humans have to use their creativity and determination to fight back against superior technology. It's one of our favorite story themes. But these are fictional stories, Admiral Zekthar protested. Fiction based on serious military planning, General Morrison corrected. Human defense forces have been studying theoretical alien invasion scenarios for decades. We wanted to be ready. Torres looked up from his tablet. Speaking of being ready, Captain, should we show them our fighter squadrons? The pilots have been asking if they can demonstrate some of our combat maneuvers. Great idea. Captain Chen turned back to Admiral Zekthar. Admiral, would you be interested in seeing some human fighter craft in action? Our pilots are really skilled, and they're dying to show off for a professional military audience. Admiral Zekthar closed the communication channel and turned to his officers. They want to show off, he said slowly. Sir? Commander Heckmole asked. They are treating this like a performance. They want to impress us with their military capabilities. Lieutenant Vexitar checked his instruments. Sir, their weapon systems are much more advanced than initial scans suggested. Those kinetic impactors hit with the force of tactical nuclear weapons. And they built them from mining equipment, Admiral Zekthar said. Yes, sir. If their industrial tools are this powerful, their actual military weapons must be formidable. Admiral Zekthar looked at the human ships on his viewing screen. They hung in space, like sleeping predators. Their simple appearance hiding sophisticated technology and crews that treated galactic warfare like a recreational activity. Sir, Commander Heckmole said quietly, what do we do with aliens who want to have fun fighting us? For the second time that day, Admiral Zekthar did not have an answer. Admiral Zekthar decided he needed to understand these strange humans better. Perhaps if he learned more about their motivations, he could find a way to defeat them. He opened communication channels again. Captain Chen, he said, I must ask you directly. Why are you not afraid? My fleet could destroy your ships easily. Most species surrender when they see our power. Captain Chen's smile somehow got even wider. Oh, we're definitely concerned about the danger, Admiral. But afraid? No, not really. Humans have been dreaming about this moment for too long to be scared when it finally happens. A new human appeared on screen. A woman wearing a different uniform with insignia that Admiral Zekthar did not recognize. Admiral Zekthar, the woman said. I'm Dr. Amanda Jackson, xenobiologist and cultural specialist. I think I can explain why humans are reacting this way. Please do, Zekthar replied, genuinely curious. Dr. Jackson pulled up a chair and sat down in front of the communication screen. Her expression was professional, but her eyes sparkled with the same excitement as the rest of the crew. For over 100 years, she began, human civilization has been preparing for exactly this scenario, not just militarily, but psychologically and culturally. We have imagined meeting advanced alien civilizations thousands of times in our entertainment media. Entertainment media? Stories, films, games, simulations, Dr. Jackson explained. Humans love to imagine what-if scenarios. And one of our most popular what-if questions has always been, what would happen if we met aliens who wanted to conquer us? Admiral Zekthar listened carefully. And what conclusions did you reach? That it would be the most exciting thing that could possibly happen to humanity, Dr. Jackson replied without hesitation. Every human child grows up reading stories about brave people fighting against impossible odds. Space battles, alien empires, heroic last stands, these are the themes that define our culture. Captain Chen nodded enthusiastically. I read my first alien invasion story when I was 7 years old. It was about a small group of human fighters defending Earth against a massive alien fleet. I must have read that book 50 times. I played my first space combat simulation when I was 10, added Torres. Humans versus the Galactic Empire. I spent hours learning how to pilot fighters and coordinate fleet movements. Dr. Jackson continued her explanation. What you need to understand, Admiral, is that humanity's greatest fear was never that we would encounter hostile aliens. Our greatest fear was that we would be alone in the universe. Alone? Admiral Zekthar was confused. Yes. For decades, humans searched for signs of intelligent life. We built radio telescopes, sent out signals, launched space probes. We found nothing. Many humans began to worry that we might be the only intelligent species in the galaxy. General Morrison appeared on screen again. The possibility of cosmic loneliness terrified us more than any alien invasion ever could. At least if hostile aliens showed up, it would prove we weren't alone. So you prefer conquest to isolation? Admiral Zekthar asked. We prefer challenges to boredom, Captain Chen corrected. Humans are problem solvers by nature. We like obstacles to overcome, puzzles to solve, competitions to win. A galactic empire trying to conquer us isn't a disaster. It's the ultimate puzzle. Dr. Jackson pulled up some data on her tablet. Admiral, human history is full of examples of our species, thriving under pressure, wars, natural disasters, technological challenges. Difficult situations bring out the best in humanity. Your species enjoys conflict? We enjoy overcoming conflict, Torres clarified. There's a difference. We don't like suffering or destruction, but we love the feeling of rising to meet a challenge and succeeding against the odds. Hansen, the engineer, leaned into the conversation. It's like the difference between enjoying a difficult video game and enjoying real violence. The challenge is fun, but the actual pain and destruction aren't. Admiral Zekthar was beginning to understand something fundamental about human psychology. You treat serious situations like games? Not exactly, Dr. Jackson said thoughtfully. We treat serious situations like opportunities to prove ourselves. Games are just practice for real challenges. Captain Chen stood up and walked closer to the screen. Admiral, can I tell you something personal? Proceed. When I was a little girl, I used to look up at the stars and wonder if there was anyone out there looking back at me. I wondered what they would be like, what their ships would look like, whether they would be friends or enemies. Her expression became more serious, but the excitement never left her eyes. I joined the space fleet because I hoped that someday I would be the first human to meet another intelligent species. I spent years training for this moment, learning languages, studying xenobiology, practicing first contact protocols. She paused and looked at something off-screen before continuing. But more than anything else, I studied military tactics and space combat. Not because I wanted to fight aliens, but because every story, every simulation, every logical analysis suggested that first contact would probably involve some kind of conflict. So you prepared for war, Admiral Zekthar said. We prepared for the possibility of war, General Morrison corrected. But we also prepared for dozens of other scenarios: trade negotiations, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, exploration, partnerships. However, Dr. Jackson added, our entertainment media and military simulations showed a clear preference for conflict scenarios. Humans find stories about peaceful first contact. Well, boring. Torres laughed. Nobody wants to read a book about aliens showing up and everything going smoothly. Where's the drama in that? So you prefer dramatic situations? Admiral Zekthar asked. We prefer interesting situations, Captain Chen replied. And this, meeting an advanced alien empire in a potential combat scenario, this is the most interesting thing that has ever happened to humanity. Admiral Zekthar looked at his officers. Commander Hecamol was taking notes on everything the humans said. Lieutenant Vextar was monitoring their ship's energy signatures and weapon systems. Sir, Vextar said quietly, their enthusiasm appears to be genuine. Stress analysis of their vocal patterns shows excitement and anticipation, but no fear or deception. They really are enjoying this, Hecamol added. On the human ship, Dr. Jackson was showing Admiral Zekthar images on her tablet. These are some examples of human entertainment featuring galactic empires, she explained. Notice how the basic structure is always the same. Advanced aliens with superior technology encounter humans, there's a conflict, and then either the humans win through cleverness and determination, or they earn the respect of the aliens and become allies. The images showed humans fighting against various alien designs, some similar to the hegemony, others completely different. We have been rehearsing this scenario in our imaginations for generations, Dr. Jackson continued. Every possible variation, every tactical situation, every diplomatic approach. This isn't new to us. It's familiar. Captain Chen nodded. And now it's actually happening. We're living through the greatest adventure in human history. Adventure, Admiral Zekthar repeated. That's what humans call exciting experiences that involve risk and challenge, Torres explained. Adventures are what make life worth living. But you could die, Admiral Zekthar pointed out. Everything worth doing involves some risk of death, Hansen replied cheerfully. That's what makes it interesting. Admiral Zekthar closed the communication channel and turned to his officers. They think this is an adventure, he said slowly. Yes, sir, Commander Heckmol replied, and they appear to have been preparing for this specific adventure their entire lives. Not just their entire lives, Lieutenant Vextar corrected. Their entire civilization has been preparing for this for over a century. Admiral Zekthar looked at the human ships on his viewing screen. Small, simple-looking vessels that hid sophisticated technology and crews who treated first contact with a galactic empire like the fulfillment of their deepest dreams. Sir, Commander Heckmol said quietly, what do we do with aliens who have been hoping we would show up? Admiral Zekthar was beginning to think he knew the answer, and it worried him. Admiral Zekthar made a decision that went against 3 centuries of hegemony military doctrine. He was going to test these humans in actual combat to see if their confidence was justified. All ships, he commanded, begin attack pattern Omega-7. Target their engines and weapon systems. Disable. Do not destroy. Yes, sir, replied his weapons officer. The hegemony fleet moved into attack formation. Energy weapons powered up and fighter squadrons launched from the carrier ships. It was an impressive display of military coordination that had broken the spirit of countless civilizations. The human response was immediate and completely unexpected. Instead of panic or desperate defensive maneuvers, the human ships began moving in patterns that looked almost like a dance. Their fighters launched and formed up in tight formations that moved with impossible precision. And then Admiral Zekthar heard something that no military commander had ever heard during a space battle. The humans were playing music. What is that? Sound? Commander Hecamol asked. I believe it's called a battle song, Lieutenant Vextar replied, checking his translation systems. They appear to be singing while they fight. On the communication channel, Captain Chen's voice came through clearly over the music. All ships. This is defiance. Remember, people, this is what we trained for. Make it count. And someone turn up the music. I can barely hear it over the engine noise. The human ships moved like they were performing a complex choreographed routine. Their fighters weaved between hegemony plasma bolts with movements that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics and common sense. "How are they doing that?" demanded the hegemony fighter commander over the communication system. "Doing what?" Admiral Zekthar asked. "Their fighters just performed a synchronized barrel roll through our missile barrage. No one flies like that in actual combat." On his viewing screen, Admiral Zekthar watched human fighters spinning and diving in patterns that were both beautiful and tactically brilliant. They moved like they were playing rather than fighting for their lives. "Torres to all fighters," came a voice over the human communication channels. "Remember what we practiced. Show these professionals how humans do aerobatics." The human fighters began performing maneuvers that Admiral Zekthar had never seen before. They spun and looped and rolled in ways that seemed designed more for entertainment than tactical advantage. But somehow, these impossible movements kept them alive and let them return fire with devastating accuracy. "They're not flying like they're trying to win a battle," observed Commander Hecamol. "They're flying like they're trying to win a competition." A hegemony fighter pilot's voice crackled over the communication system. "Command, one of the human fighters just sent me a message." "What did it say?" Admiral Zekthar asked. "Nice flying. Want to try that spiral maneuver again?" "Sir, I think they're giving me flying lessons in the middle of a space battle." On the main viewing screen, Captain Chen was coordinating her ship's defenses while laughing with pure joy. Her crew moved around the bridge with the kind of smooth efficiency that came from years of practice, but they all looked like they were having the time of their lives. "Engineering, I need more power to the forward shields," Captain Chen called out. "You got it, Captain," Hansen replied from somewhere off-screen. "This is so much better than the simulations." "I know, right?" Torres added from his fighter pilot. Station. "The real thing is way more fun." Admiral Zekthar watched his tactical display in growing amazement. The humans were not just holding their own against his superior fleet. They were winning. Their ships moved with coordination that spoke of countless hours of practice. Their weapons fired with precision that suggested intimate familiarity with space combat. But more than that, they fought with a creativity and enthusiasm that was completely outside his military experience. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the humans are using their industrial equipment as weapons again. They just launched mining charges that are homing in on our destroyer escort." Mining charges? Explosive devices normally used for asteroid excavation, but they've been modified with guidance systems and shaped charges, very effective against ship hulls. A human voice came over the open communication channels. "Sorry about the mining charges. We know they're not standard military hardware, but they work really well for ship-to-ship combat." Admiral Zekthar realized that the humans were apologizing for using unconventional weapons, as if they were concerned about fighting unfairly. "Captain Chen," he called over the communication system, "why are you apologizing for effective tactics?" "Good sportsmanship," Captain Chen replied while dodging a plasma bolt. "Humans believe in fair play, even in combat. We want to win, but we want to win honorably. This is a battle, not a sporting event." "Why can't it be both?" Torres asked, performing another impossible maneuver. "Competition is competition, whether it's for fun or for real." Admiral Zekthar watched his fleet engagement reports with growing concern. The humans were not just matching his forces, they were outperforming them. Their tactics were unconventional but brilliant. Their coordination was flawless. Their technology, while different from hegemony standards, was remarkably effective. But what worried him most was their attitude. The humans fought like they were enjoying every moment of it. "All human fighters, this is General Morrison," came a voice over their communication channels. "Remember your training. These are real professionals, so show them our best work." "Roger that, General," came a chorus of replies. "This is awesome." Admiral Zekthar's headache was getting worse. The humans were treating his elite military fleet like a training exercise, and they were treating it like the best training exercise they had ever experienced. "Sir," Commander Hecamol said quietly, "perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal to reassess the situation." "Sir," Lieutenant Vextar interrupted, "the humans are sending us a communication request." "Put it through," Admiral Zekthar ordered. Captain Chen appeared on screen, her hair slightly messed up from the battle, but her smile brighter than ever. "Admiral Zekthar," she said, "this has been absolutely incredible. Your pilots are amazing, your tactics are brilliant, and your technology is fascinating. My crew has learned more about space combat in the last hour than we did in years of simulations." "You enjoyed the battle?" Admiral Zekthar asked weakly. "Are you kidding? This was the best day of my life. Our pilots are already asking if we can do this again sometime." Behind her, Torres appeared on screen, his face flushed with excitement. "Admiral, sir, your fighter pilots are incredible. Would it be possible to set up some kind of regular training exchange program?" "Training exchange?" General Morrison appeared next to Captain Chen. "What Torres means is, would your military be interested in regular war games with human forces? We could learn a lot from each other. Your tactical doctrine is fascinating, and I think our unconventional approaches might interest your strategists." Admiral Zekthar looked at his tactical display. The battle had ended in what could only be called a draw. Neither side had achieved decisive victory, but both sides had demonstrated impressive capabilities. More importantly, the humans had proven they were not afraid of the hegemony. They were excited by it. "You want to schedule regular battles with us?" he asked. "Why not?" Captain Chen replied. "Humans love competitive activities, and this was the most educational military exercise we've ever participated in." Dr. Jackson appeared on screen. "From an anthropological perspective, this could be the beginning of a fascinating cultural exchange. Our species could learn a great deal from each other." Cultural exchange through combat. Admiral Zekthar was having trouble understanding this concept. "Humans often form friendships through competition," Hansen explained, appearing briefly on screen. "Some of our best international relationships started with military conflicts. Former enemies become allies once they develop mutual respect." Admiral Zekthar closed the communication channel and looked at his officers. "They want to be friends with us," he said slowly. "Yes, sir," Commander Heckmole replied. "And they want to be friends with us by fighting us regularly." "This is completely outside standard hegemony protocols," Lieutenant Vextar observed. Admiral Zekthar opened the communication channel again. "Captain Chen," he said, "I need to understand something. You are not afraid of the hegemony?" "Not really," she replied honestly. "Concerned about the potential for conflict, yes. Worried about the safety of our people, absolutely. But afraid? No. You've given us exactly what humanity has been hoping for. Proof that we're not alone, and evidence that the universe is full of interesting challenges. What if we had destroyed your ships?" Captain Chen's expression became more serious, but she did not stop smiling. "Then we would have fought as hard as we could, and other humans would have learned from our example. That's how humans work. We try things, we learn from the results, and we get better. And if we had conquered your homeworld, then humans would have spent however long it took to figure out how to fight back," General Morrison replied. "Probably, while making friends with individual hegemony citizens and learning everything we could about your technology and culture." Admiral Zekthar realized he was facing something completely unprecedented in hegemony military history, a species that considered conquest an opportunity rather than a catastrophe.